Welcome. Scott here. I will be covering on the upcoming event, which is the final fight for Act 3 Finale Part 2 Climax Seat of the Gods. Please do note that the fight will be adapting the 6 warrior quests format. Firstly, let me give you a quick overview on the 6 warriors quest. You can bring a party of 6 members for the quest. Each member can be equipped with their own call. For every turn, you can do a member swap. To swap a member, you need to click on the swap button. You can only bring one summon and will only be allowed to use one burst phase. No friend support will be allowed. Abilities that revive the party will affect both parties. For those who have a full built-up roster, this is an event that you will enjoy a lot of fun in bringing a bigger party and have everyone utilize their strengths. Put a team of various utilities and this will help you in this even and future 6 warrior fights as well. Let's proceed with the boss guide proper. The event synergy units are Iroha, Rosa, Cater, Onion Knight, Paine and Aphmau. Onion Knight FR and Iroha Burst will be making their debut. Iroha and Onion Knight will be getting their reworks. Onion Knight will get his force enhancements. We will be fighting the Cloud of Darkness final form, which has 280 million HP. Throughout the fight, it can summon 2 tentacles which has 20 million HP each. The main boss is immune to launch, delay, including delay from breaks, and immune to turn deletion. Its turns will be framed through the fight. The tentacles are immune to launch. The turn requirement is 80. The HP requirements is 40,000. Before I continue further, here is a small disclaimer clause for the video. The guide is written based on the time that the event was released for the Japanese version. Please do note that it is possible that the boss fight mechanics might differ when the actual event is released in global. Like most other Shinryu fights, the boss gains increased brave damage and gain resistances at start of the fight and 79% HP threshold. Bringing a support like Lunafreya, Charlotta, Aerith, Ramza, Yuna, or Iroha that grants damage boosting aura will make your fight easier. As the boss gains substantial boost to their defenses with the auras, it is important to inflict debuffs that lower their defenses. This is going to be this month's toughest fight. The boss has a mammoth amount of HP and you will need to switch your team setup as you go through the phase. On the screen I have listed down the key utility that you can consider when forming your 6-man crew for the fight. As boss is immune to launch, delay and turn deletion, and your party members will get delay once the boss force gauge reaches 30% and above, the enemy party will bound to get their turns. Off-turn damage dealers and hit and counter utility will help a lot to manage the fight well. The cover tanks and any trap units will excel here. Generally, any off-turn or traps type FR will make the fight a lot significantly easier. If you need to bring your party turns to do a specific action, for example setting damage mitigation calls or dispel the boss buffs, you can make use of turn manipulators like Onion Knight, Ram, or Aphmau. To cancel the boss force time effect, you need to use a melee FR that has instant turn utility. The FR that meets the requirements are Onion Knight, Ursula, and Paine. The boss can trigger debuffs at certain HP thresholds. You might want to consider bring debuff evasion units or debuff cleansers to handle the mechanics. Example of debuff evasion unit is Aerith, Aphmau, Lena. Examples of debuff cleansers are Yuna, Pernello, Sidor, Mog and Paine. As the boss will switch its resistance as you go through certain HP thresholds, you can ignore the resistance by bring ignore brave resistance mechanics utility like Setzer, Snow, Charlotta, or Kate Sith. The boss resist physical brave damage when its HP threshold is between 100% to 80% and 49% to 30%. The boss resist magic brave resistances when its HP threshold is between 79% to 50% and 29% to 0%. The boss will supplement buffs and brave gains constantly by its minions. Brave control utility can be useful here. On the screen, I have shown the examples of the units that covers the utility that I have mentioned earlier. As we are no longer have Lufania Plus fights, the boss guide will be focused primarily on Shinryu fights. In Shinryu, you need to understand the effects gained by the boss as the force gauge build up, its force ability and its force time effect. If you don't bring any force chargers, it is highly certain that the boss force gauge will build up faster than yours. To have a better understanding on the basics of the force gauge mechanics and Shinryu fights, I have done a video explaining the mechanics. I have included the link to the video under the comments and video description for your quick reference. Throughout the fight, the boss force gauge charge rate will increase by 2% whenever the boss party takes a turn. A 10% max HP poison will apply onto the battlefield throughout the entire fight. When the force gauge is equal or greater than 30%, all your party members will delay their subsequent turn by 1 after taking their current turn. When the force gauge is equal or greater than 60%, the boss will gain 100% HP damage resistance against non-force ability. The boss force gauge will build up faster as its HP is lowered. You can refer to the table on the screen for the percentages. At the 100% threshold, the main boss will use its force ability, Wave Cannon, and activates its force time for 3 turns. The boss force ability, Wave Cannon, will cleanse all debuffs on itself and unleash an AoE Brave plus HP attack. It will also grant itself a framed 50% Brave damage up buff for 3 turns. Upon using the force ability, the boss will enter into its force time where the gauge will start to emit a red hue with a counter of 3 on its gauge. When the force time is activated, the boss will apply a 200% max Brave down aura. To cancel the enemy's force time effects, you need to use melee FR with an instant turn. Other than Onion Knight, the other FR that meets the conditions are Paine and Ursula. Now let's go through the fight key mechanics. Generally, the fight can be divided in 4 major phases depending the Cloud of Darkness current HP. To simplify the illustration, I have shown a table summarizing the fight mechanics. Firstly, let's talk about the support phase. The boss will command its tentacles to enter into support mode during the 100% to 80% and 49% to 30% HP intervals. During this phase, it will gain 90% physical Brave damage resistance. During this phase, the tentacle minions are unkillable. They will heal back to max HP for any damage that they received. They will support the party by constantly refreshing the haste and protect buffs on the party. At the start of the fight and the 49% HP threshold, the boss will use Gaze, which grants the boss party 3 framed buffs for 2 turns, 50% HP damage resist buff for 2 turns. It will also inflict 1 turn framed blind debuff, which lowers your party hit rate by 50%. There is nothing much to do other than lower the main boss HP thresholds to activate the attack phase. Now let's talk about the other phase, the attack phase. The boss will enter into this phase at the following HP thresholds, the 79% and 29% HP threshold. Upon activation, the boss will kill off the existing tentacles and revives them. It will remove the physical Brave damage resistances and switches to magic Brave damage resistances. The tentacles will switch its moveset from a support set to a more offense-oriented moveset where they will start to do HP attacks or inflict debuffs. The boss will also use Gaze Plus at the commencement of the thresholds, 79% and 29% HP threshold. Gaze Plus will grants the party the same set of buffs as Gaze, except it will inflict a framed 1-turn confused debuff instead. The tentacles will become killable, but the main boss HP won't fall below a certain HP threshold until you killed off them. Upon killing off the tentacles, you remove the magic Brave resistances and you will be able to lower the main boss HP. For the attack phase between 79% to 50% HP threshold, the main boss HP cannot be lowered to below 59% until the tentacles are killed. For the attack phase between 29% to 0% HP threshold, the main boss HP cannot be lowered to below 1% until the tentacles are killed. With HP gates implemented through the fight along with the boss switching its defense resistance types, it will be a bit challenging to do a FR burst phase to nuke the boss from the onset unless you have Brave damage resistance. Ignore mechanics like Brave cap damage support like Rainbow or using Brave gains mechanics like Charlotta or Kate Sith. Now let's talk about through the individual phase in details. Let's talk about the support phase. The boss will activate the 90% physical brave damage resistance auras at the start of the fight and at the 49% HP threshold. The boss will resist both melee and ranged brave attacks. This phase will stay active when the main boss HP range is between 100% to 80% and 49% to 30% HP intervals. During this phase, the tentacle minions are unkillable. They will heal back to full health for any damage that they received. They will support the party by constantly refreshing the haste and protect buffs on the party. Upon triggering the threshold, the boss will use Gaze, which grants the boss party the following framed buffs: 50% defense up for 2 turns, a 50% initial brave regen buff for 2 turns, 50% HP damage resist buff for 2 turns. It will also inflict 1 turn framed blind debuff, which lowers your party hit rate by 50%. Unless you have an unit that have debuff immunity, you will get inflicted by the blind debuff. Use a debuff cleansing skill or A to skip the debuff. As the tentacles are immortal during this phase, it is best to focus your damage primarily on the main boss. Unless you have mechanics to avoid bring damage resistances, bring a magic-oriented team to handle this phase of the fight. Just keep on damaging the main boss to lower its HP to trigger the next phase. Now let's talk about the attack phase. The boss will activate the 90% magic brave damage resistance auras at the 79% and at the 29% HP thresholds. This phase will stay active when the main boss HP range is between 79% to 50% and 29% to 0% HP intervals. Upon activating the threshold, the minions will be killed and resummoned. Do note that when the minions are killed, the debuffs that you have applied will be gone as well. So, do remember to reapply them. During this phase, the tentacle minions will be able to receive damage, but you cannot damage the main boss until the minions are killed. For the attack phase during the HP intervals, 79% to 50% HP, the main boss HP won't drop below 59% until the tentacles are killed. For the attack phase during the HP intervals, 29% to 0% HP, the main boss HP won't drop below 1% until the tentacles are killed. Upon killing the tentacles, you will remove the 90% magic brave damage resistance aura. Upon triggering the thresholds, the boss will use Gaze Plus, which grants the boss party the following framed buffs: 50% defense up for 2 turns, a 50% initial brave regen buff for 2 turns, 50% HP damage resist buff for 2 turns. It will also inflict 1 turn framed confused debuff. It is highly recommended to have debuff evasion, or block your buff slots with 6 framed buffs. To handle the phase, the general strategy is just damage the tentacles and destroying them before focus on the main boss. Do note that the tentacles will deploy a more offense-oriented moveset, so be prepared for any possible incoming HP attacks from them. Once the tentacles are destroyed, you can start to switch out your magic damage dealers and nuke the boss to the next threshold or finishing up the fight. Now let's focus on the moveset of all enemies in the battle. The tentacles have 20 million HP each. They are immune to launches. They will change the moveset depending the phase that you are currently in. During the support phase, it will use either Protect or Haste. When using Protect, the tentacle battery boss party a brave gain that equates to 50% of its initial brave along with 50% physical damage resistance for 2 turns. When using Haste, the tentacle battery the boss party a brave gain that equates to 50% of its initial brave along with a framed 50% speed up buff for 2 turns. During the attack phase, it will use either Bad Breath or Lightning. Bad Breath is a single target brave attack that inflicts 3 turn sap debuff. Lightning is a brave gain followed by a single target HP attack. Cloud of Darkness have 3 basic attacks and it seems to be a standard attack rotation cycle. Induction Beam is an AoE brave attack that delays all your party member by 2 turns. Uncanny Beam is a single target brave attack that delays the target by 1 turn and grants the boss itself a 50% attack up framed buff for 3 turns. Insulating Appendages is an AoE Brave plus HP attack and inflicts 50% turn rate down debuff for 5 turns. Before I go into the overview of the featured FR unit, here are some tips that I can offer for the fight. Unless you have supports that can bypass Brave resistance mechanics like Charlotta, Kate Sith, Snow, or Setzer, set up 2 teams, a magic-oriented team and physical team. Switch them accordingly depending on the phase that boss is in. At the start of the fight, use a non-attack ability to remove the blind debuff or use a debuff cleansing utility to remove the 1-turn blind frame debuff. Start the fight with a counter unit like Beatrix or deploy cover tanks that doesn't need a turn to set up will ensure you have a safe head start. If you are using an off-turn FR like Celis, Core, Dorgan, Redia, Beatrix, or the upcoming Machina FR, try to activate your FR when the boss force gauge is above 30%. The self-delay mechanic allows the boss takes more turn, which helps to build those off-turn FR gauges. With the turn rate and speed up buffs and turn rate down debuffs and the main boss delay your party turns, it is highly likely the boss will take more turns than your party. Once the force time percentage is high, use a damage nuker like a BT finisher or Enacross to nuke with her LD. If you are using the standard attack phase FR, I will recommend you to let the boss activate the boss force time first and let it lapse. So you don't need to handle the self-delay mechanic when the boss force gauge threshold is above 30%. If you have them, make use of Brave damage resistance ignore utility like Setzer fixed dice, Charlotta BT aura, Kate Sith LDCA or Snow BT aura. If you are using a magic FR burst phase like Yuna, enter into it after finish off the tentacles at the attack phase during the 79% to 50% HP threshold interval. This should last you a substantial amount of maximum damage output before the next magic Brave resistance kicks in at the 29% HP threshold. Before I end the guide, let's cover a bit on the featured FR unit. After 2 long years, Onion Knight finally got a base kit rework and is the first unit to get a BT or a rework. His FR is geared to ice elemental attacks and party consecutive turns. Let's briefly go through his force condition. 1. You will get a 40% HP damage bonus if the previous turn was an ally turn. Lining your party turns before you use his FR is great here. Make use of turn manipulators like Sid Reigns, Aphmau, Ram, or Noctis. You can also make use of units that can take consecutive turns. 2. You will get a 20% HP damage bonus upon using an ice ability. Onion Knight get 30% whenever he deals ice damage. Onion Knight FR grants the party ice enchant. Upon using his FR, Onion Knight will bring forward your party turns with the selected ally turns goes first. His BT aura will changes depending the stance he is in. Although it is not a groundbreaking FR, it is still simple to use and easy to fulfill FR ability. Depending on your party setup, it is still usable in future content. With this, I have come to the end of my boss guide presentation. Hopefully you find it useful. If you like the video, please give a like. Please subscribe to my channel for future gaming content. Good luck for the fight in the coming days. Bye.